All right, guys, my name is Bryan. I am here today to talk to you about some stuff, but before we begin, I need my cameraman there. You're the guy recording the video? Yeah, cool. I'm going to make you work today. You've been sitting for far too long. Yeah, I'm going to be walking around. All right, so I am actually a cat person. I have 30 of them. That is the exact bio that I sent to Drew. And my official title, though, can I get a drum roll? Can I get a drum roll on the table? I realize I'm going to be awkwardly enthusiastic the whole time, so just get used to it now. Thank you. My official title is Douchey Tech Entrepreneur, and the guy that coined this phrase left the conference early. So, G-Monk, Entrepreneur 1, Motion Graphics Artist 0. I stayed for the whole thing. You cut out early. No, I actually developed an app called CodeKit. Anybody in here use it or? Sweet, I got some hands. So we'll get into what it does, but basically it makes building websites a lot easier for folks that build websites for a living. My talk today has 3 sections. In the first, I'm going to walk through my history, how I got into programming, why I had the idea for CodeKit. We'll answer all these questions and more, including why I appear to be covered in cocaine. In the second section, I'll talk a little bit about what worked for me. So what can you take away from my success? I have this app out there that supports me. It's what I do full time. What out of the 8,000 things that I did wrong can you take away and do something right? And then we're going to get to door number 3. Now, door number 3 is going to be really, really awkward. I think that a conference should be sent out in style, and I think there's one man alive that sent things out in style better than anybody else, and his name was Steve Ballmer. So we're going to get very excited at the end of today, and then we're going to go have lunch on the beach. So we'll get right to it. My history. I come from where that star is in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the opposite side of the country for the Europeans, if there's any still left in the room. And I went to college right at the rightmost point of that star, so about 2 hours from where I grew up, my parents' house. And in college is where I was first exposed to design and development. That's where I got my first bootleg copy of Photoshop, like many of you, and started messing around with stuff. And there was a course at UNC, a computer introduction course that hadn't been updated since 1992. So the course had exciting things like, here's a mouse. Don't use it on the screen, use it on the table. It was very, cutting edge stuff. But the guy that taught it gave us a project. He said, you're going to build a website. And so everybody had to learn some basic HTML and a little bit of CSS, and everybody did, their crappy portfolio page. Well, I've been an overachiever my whole life, so I said, nope, I'm going to learn Flash and JavaScript and PHP, and so I had this amazing website that you would all shudder at. There was a feather that fluttered across the screen, and it came down by my name, and it was amazing. The guy said it was the nicest website he'd ever seen anybody build in the class. It was not a very high bar. So that's where I kind of started this getting into development thing. And then college ended, and I was looking for a job. I didn't have one lined up. I was a business major. And, I got literally moving out of my apartment, and my dad calls me up one day, and he says, hey, Bryan, I got an idea here. I met this really rich guy, and he just bought 2 private jets. Like, they're going to be delivered next year. And he wants me, my dad's an airline pilot, he wants me to handle all kind of the flying stuff about this. Why don't you move back home to Charlotte and we'll build a business? You run the business, you do the business plan, we'll raise some money, and we will have this private jet company. And I said, whoa, calm down. You had me at private jet. So I moved back to Charlotte, back in with mom and dad. I was 23 at the time. And I spent a year of my life working on this company, did all kinds of stuff, built a website, wrote a huge business plan. We flew up to Pittsburgh, met with lawyers. We flew down to Belize. We presented to investors. I got my ass torn apart by the investors that didn't like my business plan because it was so nice looking and didn't have the content they were looking for. It was a wild adventure, but it ended. 2007 was not a good year to be buying private jets. The company went bankrupt. The guy lost his deposits on him, so it ended. And I was a bit lost. And then the next thing happened. My dad bought this thing. This thing's an MGB. It's a classic car. The thing was that this car happened to be located 3,672 miles away in San Diego, not far from where we are today. And he was going to have it shipped across the country. And I said, no, I'll go out and I'll drive it back. It sounds like a good adventure I'm in. So I flew out to San Diego. This was the first time I had ever been there. The year was 2008. And I grabbed this car and I started my drive across the country. It broke down on me 7 goddamn times. 3 of them in Texas. I don't know if you've ever had a car break down in Texas. It is miserable. Is the Arizona guy still here? Yeah, there he is. Yeah, Arizona's got nothing on Texas, man. It was miserable. I got back to North Carolina, and this is true. Because I'm on the internet here, I can rant at companies that have offended me in my past. AAA called me up and actually canceled my participation in our family membership plan because I used their services too much. They were like, no, you're out, dude. We just towed your car 6 times. You're out. So I got back to North Carolina with this car, and I didn't know it at the time, but this was going to be a key event in my life. So I got back to North Carolina. The dude that lost all the money in the airplanes came to me and he said, hey, Bryan, I got this other company, and it does lighting fixtures, right? It's not Starbucks. The guy does not own Starbucks. He's not that rich. And they make these little light engines that go inside the outdoor sign. So this is a Starbucks sign that goes on the side of a wall at a mall. And you can see some fiber optic cable in there and the little attachments on the end. These are light engines, and it was way better, right? So he had this company that did this, and I came on board and worked with this for a year. And I did branding and logo design and business plans and websites and the whole 9 yards for this thing. Again, I'm not showing you any of that work because I went last. You guys showed me all your stuff first, which means that I cut it out of the slideshow. At the same time, I was still freelancing. I was working with lots of different clients, Craigslist, all the websites where you go and you get stuff. And they were doing stuff to me like this. This one dog training company, literally, this happened to me. She couldn't decide on brand colors. So I did everything wrong. I built websites, I made promises, I over-delivered. Everything from the last talk, midnight, responding to emails. And I would do this. I would build a whole website, and I would have to go through the CSS file and change about 87 different instances of colors. And I said, there has got to be a better way because this client is making me feel like this. And I got on the internet and I said, I have to be missing something. There's got to be a better way of doing this. And I found it. It was called less. The problem was that browsers didn't support less. You had to change it into CSS, right? But it added variables. So I could put a little thing at the top and say, hey, brand color, blue. And then I didn't have to edit it in 87 different places throughout the file. I just had to change it once when she inevitably sent me the next email to change the colors. But there was no good way to turn less into CSS. You had to use the command line. It was really annoying. So I had already been kind of futzing around with a little bit of Mac development, and my editor at the time was Coda. I love Panic. They make great stuff, great company. So I wrote a little plugin for Coda that took less files and turned them into CSS. Literally, you just save the less file, and it just made it into CSS by running the command line for the less compiler. Well, I put this up on the internet. I said, maybe somebody's going to use it, and it turned out to be really, really popular. And I did it for free. I put this up for free. Earlier in the week, people talked about doing things for free. Not everything has to be about money, and that was my motivation. I just wanted people to use my thing that I had made. Well, they did, and I kept getting questions from them, hey, I don't use Coda, I use TextMate, or I use Espresso, or I use V because I hate myself, and can you make one for me? Can you make a plugin for my editor? And I started doing that. I started making a whole series of these plugins, and finally it dawned on me, well, why don't I just make an app? Why don't I just create something that works with any editor, no matter what people use? And so that's what I did, and it became this, less.app. This was the UI. It was designed by Drew. It was very nice indeed. The top bar is blue. The colors are just terrible. But, I put this thing up for free, and I made a website and advertised it, and, just went to a couple blogs, Daring Fireball, Smashing Magazine, and I said, hey, I made this thing, it's free, come check it out. And they did, and believe it or not, I have a really tough time believing this, but Google Analytics tells me that this thing had, the last time I checked, which was a year ago, long before CodeKit came out, 200,000 downloads, unique downloads of this thing, and I find that really tough to believe. But maybe it's true. At any rate, the app was incredibly popular. But I was still doing this freelance work, and it wasn't panning out. I wasn't making very much money. I was living at home. I was getting closer to 30. It was still 5 years on the horizon, but when you live with your parents, man, in your 20s, it's a little rough, 30s close. So the feeling that I had every kind of day when I was working was this. I said, you know what, I'm a business major. This is not working out for me. I'm not very happy doing what I'm doing, so I'm going to go back to school. And that's what I did. I decided, fuck it, let's go to business school. So I applied here, Kellogg School of Management up in Northwestern. Hi, Kellogg. As you can tell, this probably works out very well for me. I went up there and interviewed, and I told the lady, I was so enthusiastic. I was sitting in this interview, and I was like, hey, I got this app, and so many people use it, and I want to raise money and build a company, and I want to make cool apps, and, this is what I want to do, and to get money, they're going to want me to be able to run a business, so I need the MBA, and I wasn't quite this enthusiastic. I was a little bit more professional. But you could just tell in this interview, she was like, yep, check. Where's your $200 application fee? Yep, okay, go to the waiting room. So I went to the waiting room, and I sat down next to this guy, and I started talking to him, telling him my story, and I said, hey, what do you do? What's your background? And this guy, this is actually exactly accurate. This guy turns to me, and he says, well, for the past 3 years, I've been a diplomatic attaché to the Secretary General of the United Nations in South Korea, where I negotiated a peace settlement between two warring factions. I returned to the United States a year ago to broker a merger between two Fortune 500 companies, and last Tuesday I cured 7 forms of cancer. So I said, don't worry about it, I'll show myself out. And I left Kellogg, and as you can imagine, a couple weeks later I got a very nice letter from them that said, nope, you won't be coming here. Now, some people get up here and say, I got turned down. This was my first no, right? Like, I was the overachiever kid. I won the science fair. I got good grades. I did, all this stuff. So this was my first time that somebody had really said, nope, you're not good enough. And they tell you that this becomes like a motivating force in your life. That is not true. That is what you tell the people that you come and talk to after you get rejected. At the time it happens, it just sucks. Somebody's told you you're not good enough. So again, I found myself a little bit lost. So here I am in Charlotte, and I live with my parents. I've been rejected from a business school that I was hoping to get into, and I got nothing. I got virtually no money. I don't have any prospects. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and a letter comes in the mail. And this letter happens to be from the University of San Diego, right here, about 10 minutes that way. And they say, hey, why don't you come hang out at our MBA program? And we'll give you a scholarship even. We liked your GMAT score, terrible test. We like that. Why don't you come hang out with us? And I said, you know what? That rings a bell. And the reason it rung a bell is because of that MGB. I had been exposed to San Diego. I always thought it would be cool to come back. So I said, you know what? That sounds like a cool adventure. So I picked up all of my stuff, and I moved across the country to beautiful San Diego, California, and I went to business school here at USD. And in business school, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Really great people there. I know that generally the designer and developer community frowns on business school, but I find that in every community that I go to, there are great people. There are also a lot of asses, but there are great people among anywhere you go. So I really kind of don't like the backlash that our community, and I use that term loosely because I am not anywhere near close to the designer you guys are. I find that backlash against business frustrating sometimes because I think there are good people doing good things and really exciting things in every sphere, and I think that should be celebrated. But business school became my next adventure, and while I was there, I was still kind of maintaining less.app, and I was updating it as less updated, and I wasn't really doing new features. I kind of thought, this is going to die. But people kept emailing me asking this question: will you make me SaaS.app? Will you make me CoffeeScript.app? Will you make Jade not suck for me? I hate the command line. And it took me a while, but eventually it dawned on me that, hey, these people are beating me in the face with an opportunity. It's not every day we talk about like finding a market of people, finding a customer base, and here one was just trying to bat down my door, and I was too stupid to notice it for a long time. And finally, I replied and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I figured, let's make a SaaS.app. Let's give these people what they want. And this was it. This, fortunately, never saw the light of day. This is called Less Plus. as you can tell by the terrible logo. It was in a classic example of what happens when you start a project with something already existing and you go, well, I'll just work from here. It was less plus some other shit. So let's call it less plus, and let's make some really bad icons, and we'll put them in there, and everybody will be happy. So I started to make this thing, and I was working on this on nights and weekends in business school, and I gave up a lot. I sacrificed a lot. All my kind of friends were out getting, drunk and having a good time on the weekends, and I was at home in front of Xcode where Xcode crashed on me, and I was super stressed out trying to make this thing happen. And I got to the end of my first year of business school, so we are now at the spring of 2011, and business school is 2 years, and at the end of your first year, you have to do an internship, right? Because the process is you go and you get an internship that summer, then you go back for your second year, and as long as you didn't burn down the office or slap the boss's wife, that company will probably hire you when you come out of school. So all of my friends were doing internships, and the career counselors were telling me, all right, Bryan, what is your internship? What have you got lined up? And I kept saying, well, I don't know. So I went and I did some interviews, and none of those panned out. And eventually, I got the idea that, you know what? Let's not do an internship. So I got to be on the saying side of no this time. And I cannot overstate how much of a risk this was. I know it's hard to imagine, but I was on student loans. I had no income. There was no part-time job. I lived on student loans. My resume was falling further and further behind. My last real job was in 2005 at General Electric. I didn't have anything between that huge gap. And if I didn't make something happen, I was going to be virtually unhireable coming out of my graduate program, out of business school. So this was a massive risk for me, taking this summer to do something else. I was going to graduate with $56,000 in student loan debt. I could do a whole talk on student loans and how predatory they are and how awful I think they are for our society, but this is my number. This is my number, and the guy before me got up and he said, when you're working out of debt, it's so much harder. It really changes your perspective. This was a daunting number for me. It kept me up at night. I didn't have an internship. I was a year away from having to pay this back. The government was going to come to my door and say, hey, how about that money? And I didn't have anything lined up to give it back to them. So it was super, super stressful for me. I was really bummed out for a long time. But I kept working on Less Plus, and we got to the end of my second year in April. It was never ready. I was never ready to ship it. I had done a beta with some closed people. I then did an open beta, and I was constantly not satisfied with it, but I got to April, a month away from graduating, looking at this debt. Literally, they were sending me the statements, and I said, I got to put it out there. So I put it out there. CodeKit 1.0 launched in April of 2012, and it did so much more than Less Plus originally set out to do. It reloaded your browsers automatically, so you could just save the file in your editor, and your browser just worked. And it combined and minified JavaScript, and it would run JS Hint and show you the errors in your JavaScripts in real time as you save the file. It allowed you to do frameworks, so you could put code that you want to reuse in one spot on your Mac and then just call it in any project. All this stuff all these pain points that I had over the years, I fixed and put into this app. So CodeKit 1.0 launched. And, the question that I get is, how well has it done? Everybody wants to know the money. I use industry standard benchmarks to measure my success, which is, of course, the Lindsay Lohan to Mark Zuckerberg scale. Mark Zuckerberg, you do not have anything to fear from me. I will not be buying your house anytime soon, or the three next to you to have some privacy. I am right here. So on the downside, I'm far from Mark Zuckerberg. I don't have that wealth. But on the plus side, I also don't have a cocaine addiction. So I like to look at the glass half full scenario. Then in San Diego that summer, I met Guy Meyer. This guy, literally. Guy Meyer is my designer, and we worked with him. We worked together on CodeKit 2.0. And Guy told me before I came here, Drew asked me to speak about 2 months ago, and I told Guy that I was going to come speak at ValioCon, and he said, listen, start making your slides now. And I said, dude, it's like 2 months away. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Why would I make slides now? And he said, because whatever you're going to make is going to be really shitty, and then I will fix it for you before you go. This is how Guy and I communicate. Literally, these are our text messages. He forgot to export a mixed state for a checkbox, an image asset. So I sent him that text message, and he replied like this: "This is why we'll never break up, because I kind of like working like this. I think this is a model of how designer-client communication should be done. I encourage this for everybody." And Guy and I worked on CodeKit 2.0. This was an initial mock-up of it. So there's elements here that actually did make it into the final app. The project icon in the upper left, the two icons over there on the right, the tab bar, some of the UI styling for the various elements in the screen there. And we worked on this project back and forth, what seemed like endlessly. And eventually in, let's see, when the hell did CodeKit 2 ship? Yeah, March of this year. This was what came of it, CodeKit 2. This is what you'll find if you run the app today, the screenshots. I took them last night. And everything in this app has been improved. You know, there's so much you can't see in the screenshot, but the inspector over there on the side has a nice little textured background. And the rows in this table view are bezeled like iTunes 10. That took me a solid day. And then, you know, there's so much interaction and good things that I liked about the design that we came up with. You know, here's the Bower section of the app, which lets you install jQuery and WordPress in a single click and all that good stuff. The tabs made it in. And we came across and we said, you know, let's remove some pain points. So that sidebar, everybody wanted the app to be really narrow. So we took that out and put in a popover like this. We made a bunch of great changes. And, you know, Ross told me that I had to include a slide with some code. This is actual code from CodeKit. This is the longest method name in the world. I'm going to read it out. Recursively establish current child items of parent item parent using optional psconfig files dict all files info dict with homeless items array homeless items. This is literally the code that I sift through every single day. So if you use CodeKit, this is what's running on your machine. I'm sorry. So the natural question is, how well did CodeKit 2 do? And Mark Zuckerberg still has no need to worry. I'm still nowhere near close to him, but I will catch up. Don't worry. And that's kind of where I am today. So that's the history of where CodeKit 2 came from. So let's talk about what worked for me. What did I do that I think other people could do in launching a product or bringing something to market that might help them be successful? The first thing that I think is really critical is avoiding shitty customers. And I can't say this enough. This is something I did by dumb luck. There was no strategic thinking on my part where I said, all right, this is who I'm going to target. But it turned out that the people that were the right customers for me are all of you. And these are all of the Twitter photos that I could find from ValioCon. And the reason I say this, first of all, can we make this a meme like creepy skateboard guy? Can this be a thing? Seriously. There's a lot of talent in here. Can somebody please, I want it for my version history release notes. That's going to make sense in a minute. But I looked at the situation from the perspective of where I am now, and I lucked into it because I went for this very specific segment of a market, and that is, first, tech-savvy people, smart tech-savvy people, because if you are tech-savvy, if you can decipher Photoshop or you know a code editor, you're smart. Like, you'll figure stuff out for yourself. I don't have to manage you. I don't have to deal with the app reviews that are, you know, I dropped my phone in the toilet and the app doesn't work anymore. You know, that kind of junk. I don't want to play anywhere in that market. And the other thing that I realized is that the people I sell to value my work. And that is something that, again, I just lucked into. And the reason you value it is because you've been in the same boat that I'm in, where somebody comes to you and they say, what do you mean the website's $5,000? I gave you the PowerPoint slides. Just use those. You know, you guys deal with this at every time. You know, everybody that starts their career has to go through this phase where you're just not valued. Nobody sees anything in the work you do. You do it for fun. It's, you know, so you have this experience that lets you look at what I've done and say, hey, this guy spent years on this. Maybe it is worth a little bit of money. And that market right there, that intersection of those two spheres, I just happen to fall into by blind sheer luck. But it is the defining thing behind CodeKit's success. And I would very much encourage you to seek out this market in any endeavors that you do. So the next thing that worked for me was personality. As you can tell, I'm kind of loud, awkwardly excited. I enjoy what I do. I like being up here in front of you. And so personality worked for me. And you know, I have some examples of this. Remember Less.app? Its slogan was the only thing easier is making fun of Internet Explorer. And this was, people liked this, and it got tweeted so much. It made Reddit, and people were all over this. And that was free exposure for me. People were going to the website just because of this tagline, and somebody linked it on Twitter. And, I didn't have any reviews for my app. The App Store didn't exist at this time on the Mac, and I needed some reviews. So I said, well, screw it, I'll write some reviews. I got dumped right before I left my parents' house, and before my ex-girlfriend left, she reviewed my app, which was very nice of her. And then I decided that I was going to start a battle. I was going to go to war, and my opponent was going to be Apple's legal department. This would be a story that I would carry through all of my app releases. I don't know why I did this. It was probably really stupid at the time. But for context, remember that this is about the time the iPhone 4 came out, and remember the prototype got lost, and Apple raided Jason Chen's apartment, seized all of his computers, arrested him and all those Gizmodo guys. And so, I had this review from Apple Legal, and this one got tweeted a lot, and people really liked it. And again, it was free exposure for the app. The next thing is CodeKit. It came along, and I couldn't reuse the same slogan because Internet Explorer at that point was less annoying to me than Firefox. So I had to change the slogan, and I went with it's like steroids for web developers. I caught some flack from people that are very anti-steroid. I don't mean it literally. You do not inject CodeKit into your veins. But it immediately conveyed to me, hey, this is what it does. It makes you much more powerful very quickly. It's like a shortcut. So I like the slogan, and that one didn't get a lot of exposure, but I had these reviews. I kept up my reviews. So I had this one from my mom. My mom is a very nice lady. She's going to watch this. I told her I was doing this, and Mom, I love you. I don't think she's ever actually seen this on my website before. And then, previously with Less.app, I had quoted some Steve Jobs was in there, and so Tim Cook came along this time and said, well, I'm glad he didn't do that. And then Apple Legal, of course, had to chime in, and this time I chose another, contextualized kind of recent event. So I put this one up there. And this one was really popular. This one caught some tweets. Then, of course, we got to CodeKit 2, and I had a designer. This is the website. If you go there, that's what you're going to see. Of course, it's all swanky and really cool stuff, CSS3 animations that don't translate onto the slide. But, I had to up the game, so I introduced some icons. So I had Johnny Ive review the app this time. And then, of course, Apple Legal was not very happy about the situation. So far, I have not been called out by Apple, actually. Hopefully, this does not change that. I don't, seriously, I don't have a lot of money. Go after Mark Zuckerberg. Of course, the internet is a raging ball of hate and sadness and despair, and people did not like my humor. I went to Hacker News when CodeKit 2 launched. It got covered. Hacker News is where self-esteem goes to die, and, reading the testimonials made me wonder if this whole thing was a joke or not. How immature and technological, exactly, incompetent are your users? I'm guessing the app is being marketed towards hipster front-end devs. A Mac app for cool people. That's the official slogan if you go below my logo. Did they really have to resort to a level that low? And seriously, if that is you, what is wrong with that slogan? I don't understand. This guy, I don't get it. Seriously, an embarrassingly bad slogan. This was frustrating for me. You can only take so much pounding before it really starts to set in. And fortunately, a couple of my users showed up, and I'm only going to show you one quote. But Simon put up one here, good guy Simon, that I really liked. He said, hey, he made something that's really good. I like the humor, and he doesn't charge me a lot for it. Win. There was a lot of other people that came to my defense. Thank you very much. And it was a good time overall, and I got over all the bad crap that the internet spews out at you. My best hateful review, though, came from my designer's wife, Guy's wife, Bryn. She sent me a hand-pressed letterpress card. It says haters gonna hate, and it has a pig flying there. And she has a giant letterpress. She does a print shop in her garage. So she sent me a hand-pressed letterpressed card because I got in trouble with my reviews on CodeKit 2. I didn't have any actual technical reviews from women. I had a couple of joke reviews from women, but I didn't have any actual women saying smart, intelligent things about the app. And I did have a couple guys that were real reviews. That was not intentional on my part, but people called me out on it, so I added some. And she sent me this card, and on the inside it says, you sexist asshole. So my designer's wife sent me this card to review CodeKit 2 in response to my website. So humor worked for me, and I carried it over into my release notes. This one made the front page of Reddit. However Reddit works, are funny. And people really like this. I was just starting watching The Walking Dead, and there's a scene where he runs into a tank, and all these zombies close in on him. And instead of trying to drive the tank out of there, he gets back out of the tank and almost gets eaten. So I said, well, that's dumb. I will publicly tell him it is dumb. And this was the only venue that I had to do it, so I put it in my release notes. Then Lauren Brichter came along. If you don't know Lauren Brichter, he is pretty much an idol. He worked at Apple, Twitter, invented pull to refresh, literally holds the patent on it, wrote the first Twitter client, all this good stuff. But he had this game Letterpress, and in his release notes, he decided, I'm going to be funny. So I said, I will call Lauren Brichter out on this. I put out my release notes, called him out, and said, not only will I make more funny release notes than you, I will smurf you in your own app. And smurfing means that you turn the whole board blue in Letterpress, so you beat somebody like definitively. And Lauren got with me on Twitter and said, I'm 8 bits, unless you're all talk. So I played Lauren in Letterpress, and I am pleased to say that I won 3 out of 6. Lauren and I are tied, and I'm quite happy to leave it at that. The crash reporter screen for CodeKit is another example. This is the most frequently used image about my app. If you go to Google and you search CodeKit in the images, this is image number 1. There is something to be said negatively about having your crash reporter screen be your most commonly Googled image about your app. But people really like this, and it caught a lot of press, and I think, again, it kind of just spread the word about my app to people that weren't going to hear of it any other way. And finally, the last thing I want to say about personality is that when I set out, I never wanted to be a company. I didn't want to be a corporate monolith, inapproachable, inhospitable thing, all right? Every company out there, they're all really well designed. If you go to like Squarespace, you see they're a great company. They're an awesome company, but they are normal. You know, you go there and you see their website, and it's absolutely beautiful, and their about page, you know, here's our mission, and these are our people, and it's great. But it's normal, and I didn't want to be that. The other thing I hated was I had used a lot of apps, and when I sent support requests, I got an automatic email reply that said, hey, we got your email, and you've been added to our support queue, and it would have a few metrics, and one of the things was it would say, like, priority normal. And if you need support on an app, and somebody sends back an email that essentially says, hey, yeah, we got it, we're going to get to it when we can, that's really frustrating. You know, I didn't want that. I didn't want that experience. I wanted people to feel like they had a friend that wrote an app, and they used that app from their friend, and whenever they needed it, they could just go to them and say, hey, the app's not working. Here's why I need your help. And so I adopted that mantra. That's what I set out to be. So on my entire website, you won't find anything about my company. It's not hidden behind the company name, Incident 57. It's just me. My about page says, hi, I'm Bryan. And if you email me, I reply, and this is my email signature, Bryan. It doesn't say, you know, support staff, Incident 57. It doesn't say the CodeKit team. It's me. It's the guy that wrote it. And I really wanted that for people. I wanted them to feel like they were in touch with me, and that I respected them, you know, as users, because I appreciated so much what they were doing for my life. They had literally changed my life. I was a month away from being bankrupt and moving back home with my parents, and they made it all possible for me. And I wanted them to feel like they had that connection. So that's kind of the last thing about personality that I think is really important. And it sums up in be abnormal. Don't be the startup with the really pretty website that just has the normal stuff. Humor works for me. It did work for me, but I'm kind of a little bit of a loud, boisterous personality. If that's not you, find a different way to add personality to your site. There's so many other things you can do, so many other ways to make your site not the run-of-the-mill kind of startup site. Do that. Find whatever works for you and do that. But whatever you do, just don't be normal. The next thing that I did is some science. I experimented. There is a book called Influence by a guy named Robert Cialdini. Anybody ever read it? All right, now that's the first problem. Here's a room full of people that want to make shit for humans. This book is all about humans, and this is a shortcoming that I find in our industry and one that gets addressed in business school. We spend so much time understanding the dynamics of design and user interaction, but we have very little knowledge about the actual people behind what we do, right? The people that are going to use us. We spend all this time trying to understand their motivations and fears and, the user profile, and we mock up, who we're going after. But at the end of the day, we should be reading stuff about human nature and what makes us tick like we do. So I need some help. Let's see here. Who can I pick on? Amy. Yeah, up here. And Vlad. Is Vlad still here? Oh, Vlad left. Ross. Yes, Ross, I need you up here. And Michael. Yeah, come on. All right. Don't worry, I'm coming for the rest of you. Yeah, this is just, it's going to get awkward for everybody. All right, so what I need you guys to form a little line here, a cue, if you will. All right. So one of the things that this book talks about is what makes us behave automatically the way that we do, how we behave subconsciously. And they did this experiment. These 3 people are students at college, and they are waiting to use a copier machine. Right? There's a big long line at the student union for this copier machine, and they are all waiting in it. And I walk up to the front of the line, and I say, Amy, do you mind? I only have 2 pages, and I'm late for class. Do you mind if I just cut in line and make some copies? What do you think you'd say?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah. You'd say yeah. You'd be right. 94% of people said yes. Yes, you can cut in line and make some copies. Now, Amy, suppose that I came to the line, and I walked up to you and I said, Amy, do you mind if I cut in line?
Yes, yeah. I think I'd say yeah, I'd let you.
You'd let me? Yeah. You're also correct, Amy. It turns out that lines are pretty polite. 60% of people still said, yeah, cut in line, which is amazing. Use that at the airport on your way home. And they tested this. They said, okay, well, it must be because I supplied a good reason, right? I'm late for class. That's the reason I need to cut in line. It must be because I had a good reason that more people would let me cut in line. And so they tested this by coming up and asking the following question. Amy, do you mind if I cut in line because I need to make some copies?
Yeah, I guess I would say yeah.
You'd say yes? 93% of people agree, Amy. They would let me cut to the front of the line because I need to make some copies. 30 seconds later, it would dawn on them that the entire line is there to make copies. Right? So it turns out that the reason isn't what matters. What matters is that I had any reason at all. Because is a trigger word. When we hear because, we are automatically predisposed to agree to whatever the hell people are asking us to do. Right? You don't need a good reason. You just have to have any reason at all. And I said, well, by God, I will use this. This was something that we covered in my MBA program in a class called Power and Politics. And I decided, hey, I'm going to see if I can do this. So I went to my website, and I put up this. CodeKit has a different range of prices you can select from. It's really popular. People like it. And in the top is the website for version 1.0, and that text up there says, hey, CodeKit is up for sale, and if you can, please choose a higher price because all of your proceeds go to paying off my student loans. Right? I gave them a reason. In the bottom one, I had paid off my student loans, so I couldn't use that anymore. And in the bottom one, I said, hey, choose a higher price. You get the same app no matter what. But if you choose a higher price, I'll let you be invited to the beta testing program for CodeKit 3 when I write it, or any other apps that I write in the future. I had done a closed beta for CodeKit 2, and it was really popular. Lots of people asked to get in on it. So I said, let's do it this way. Give people a reason to want to choose a higher price. And, Ross, what do you think happened here? What was the split? How many people chose a higher price?
How many people, like percentage?
Yeah, percentage-wise.
70.
70? No. A little bit premature. This 70% of people chose the minimum price. Yeah. Now, why did this fail? Why didn't it work? The reason I think it didn't work is because what's missing is the human interaction, right? On the internet, we have no problem being rude to people. We will literally go out of our way to be rude to people on the internet. Your video sucks. So when there's human interaction, when you're face to face with somebody, that force that kind of, we call it a conscience, like most people have it, kind of kicks in and says, hey, I shouldn't be an ass to this person. That was missing on the internet. And so I think most people, just went for the minimum price. And I don't hold anything against them. I would have done the same thing in a lot of scenarios in my life. A lot of my customers are, poor college students and people just starting out. So I don't in any way mean to imply that these are bad people. I just thought it was interesting that I couldn't make this influence stuff work. This is a very common question that I get asked a lot about the variable pricing for CodeKit. That brings us to the next topic, which is the App Store. This is another one that I get asked about a lot. You guys are just going to stand here awkwardly for the rest of the presentation. Yeah, no, you can go back. It's fine. I like how you just stayed here until I dismissed you. That was good. We should get more people up here. We should invite more people. You want to come stand up here? Yeah. All right, come on up. Come on up. Look at this. This is good. This is good. I like this. We're getting some more energy in the room. Jesus, everybody was so sleepy earlier. All right, the App Store. As you can tell, I am a big fan of the App Store. Do you just want to can you just point to stuff? Yes. As new slides come in, yes. This is amazing. I have my own squad now. I need more. So the App Store. Why don't I like the App Store? Well, it all comes back to this market where I play in, right? And this is another reason that I've been successful. I've been very successful outside of Apple's App Store. And people have told me, well, that's impossible. Apple, how do you do this without the promotion from Apple? How could you possibly sell an app out of there? And the reason is that I just by blind luck fell into this category of tech-savvy people. So if I went to any one of you, if I went to any single one of you and I said, hey, what is the best app for email on Mac OS X? Would you fire up the Mac App Store and search email and just start clicking stuff and going through them? No. You're going to do what every tech-savvy smart person does. They're going to go to Google. They're going to type best email client OS X, and they're going to pull up the first result, which is an article on Lifehacker that compares Postbox, Airmail, Sparrow, and all these different apps, right? And then you're going to read the one that you like the best. You're going to click a link. You're going to go to their website where there's going to be a link to the Mac App Store, right? That's how you get to the App Store. You don't start in the App Store. Now, this doesn't apply everywhere. If you write a game, you need to be in the App Store because the zombies, the terrible customers, the folks outside of this holy range, that's where they go, just the top categories. But I don't play in that market, and I think that was a very smart decision, we'll call it a decision that I made, that really led to a lot of my success. So here's the App Store, right? This is literally, I took this 2 days ago. This is the App Store. This is my next problem with the App Store. Look at these apps. Can you tell me what Stack Tray does? No. How about Clipboard Viewer? There's some idea there, right? But we don't know if it's any good. We don't even have the star ratings here, right? So this is the developer tools section. This is where CodeKit would have been. And I didn't want to play here. I said, this is a terrible experience for my users because they can't get any idea of my app. They don't, CodeKit. Okay, what? It doesn't say anything. It doesn't even say it's for web developers, right? Is it for iOS developers? There's nothing here. There's no context. I hate this experience. I didn't want to be a part of it. And I would also say that Apple wouldn't want to be a part of this. In fact, I can prove it because Apple didn't want to play in Best Buy and Circuit City when they were starting their resurgence. They said, this is a terrible experience. This is not showcasing our products well. This makes us look commodity. And so Steve said, no more Best Buy, no more Circuit City. We're going to open our own stores. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to show ourselves in our very best light. And Apple, I would really love it if you would make that possible for us, for developers in your app store. Show us in our very best light. I think that would be a great improvement because right now, this is not the best way to show off something that I spent 2 years of my life creating. And finally, there was this, Stripe, who does not pay me to be here. I love Stripe. They charge 3%, 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction, so essentially 3%. Apple wanted 10 times more. My users weren't going to discover my app through the App Store. I was going to have the same number of users no matter which path I took. So why would I choose the 30%? Why would I give up 30% of the revenue that I work so hard for? There's no, that last screenshot, there's no additional benefit that Apple gives me in their app store for this type of app because I fell into that really critical market segment. That was really, it made my whole story. That's the one thing, if you take anything away, target people like you, people where you are in the market, that you understand them, you can relate to them. You can know that they like memes and funny release notes and things like that. So, the next thing is a beachhead. This is a really quick one. There's no question that my success is tied in part to the fact that I released the Coda plugin and Less.app for free. 200,000 downloads, thousands of established users that when I released CodeKit, I could say to them, hey, here's the next thing. And by the way, I'm in a little bit of a tight spot right now, so, and this is a lot better than Less.app, so I need some money for this one. But having that built-in market was really critical to my success, and it's been critical to a lot of people this week, right? Starts with me. Texture bundles. Free texture bundles led to mextures, right? Again, something that had a free user base and then converted it into a paid platform. And Eat, Sleep, Draw. Art snacks, right? These things led to each other. They built on each other. And I think that's a really critical pattern that you need to take away, is that people have talked all week about doing work for free and just don't wait to be hired to work. And if you do that, you automatically start building a community that later on you can come back to, you can rely on, you can make support you when you start doing endeavors, where you need money and you want to charge for them. And I think that that was really critical. And finally, my last point in my success is don't be an ass. And this is a lesson that I learned the hard way. People would email me and say, hey, CodeKit's not working. And I would say, okay, show me why. And then they would show me why. And I would say, oh, yeah, no, that's very easy. Here's what you're doing wrong. This is, you just need to change this one line of code and you'll be all set. And they would email me back. And I kid you not, I have so many of these emails, I save them in a special folder. They would go, no, that cannot be it. That cannot be what is wrong with the app. And I'm like, dude, I wrote the app. I think I know what's wrong. Seriously, take me on this. I've answered this question like 75 times. So I would write these emails back to him, and I would get a bit snippy, right? I would get a little bit short. I was so frustrated. I was answering like 120 emails a day at this point. They just rolled in 24/7. And it took me a while to realize that, man, I am losing out on the promise that I wanted to make in the original, which was just a friend that has an app, and you know him, and you use the app, and it's great. I was starting to be an ass. And so I came up with this method. Anytime somebody sends me an email that I don't like, or that automatically I just want to like lunge at them, verbally tirade, you're doing a great job, by the way, really. Yes, just excellent work, excellent work. I do this thing where I open up the email, I type the reply, and then I minimize it to my dock. And I minimize it there because it's going to stay there and annoy the crap out of me while I'm working. And I consciously take time away and step back from it and give myself like 20 minutes. Or I leave and I go to the gym and I come back home and I deal with it that night. And I open up the email that I have typed out and I've vented my rage. And invariably I say, man, I'm glad I didn't send that. And then I erase it and I just suck it up and reply and let this person vent at me or do whatever. And that, for me, that concrete method has been really helpful in dealing with the customer service aspect of CodeKit. I should say, 99.9% of the people that use my app are awesome, and the things they email me about are totally fair game, and I have no problems, and I'm happy to reply. This is a very small, very, very small segment, but if there's anything to learn from the internet, it's that it only takes one, right? It only takes one Donald Sterling to blow something up. So I don't ever want to have that moment for me, and I was close. I was sending out emails that I regret. And this has led me, whenever one of them comes in that I don't like, this is the technique that I use to deal with that. All right, so that brings us to stage number 3, Crazy Town. All right, we need everybody to stand up here. Everybody's got to stand up. This is the active participation part of the presentation. Oh, don't groan. We just watched a whole speech about getting up and not sitting all day and getting diabetes. You people are groaning. You're like in your 20s. All right. So Crazy Town starts with this guy, obviously, because every presentation has to have Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said a lot of great stuff, and I feel like he's become kind of cliched. The smartest thing this man ever said, though, the very best thing he ever said, and I don't know if he created it, but the very best thing he ever said is that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. They only connect looking back. And that has been the entire story of my app. It's been the entire story of my life. My dots are these. I went home for a private jet company. It failed. I came across the country for an MGB. It broke down. I got a letter as a result from the University of San Diego. That's the reason I came here. Because I came and got this car and said, man, it'd be really cool to live in San Diego sometime. If I hadn't gotten the car, I would have thrown out that letter from San Diego. If I hadn't released the Less Coda plugin in Less.app, I never would have done that. If I hadn't gotten rejected from Kellogg, I'll tell you where I'd be. I'd be a goddamn management consultant with $180,000 of student loan debt, and I would be absolutely miserable and hating my life, more than I was when I was working with freelance clients. And then I'd be this guy. I'd be doing TPS reports and crap that I just don't want to do. And instead, where all of this has led me is CodeKit 2, which has given me the freedom to pursue anything that I want. I can build whatever I want, work on whatever I want. I have the best customers in the world, and all of it only makes sense looking back. The dots will always connect. I had really dark days in my journey through this. I had, days where I just didn't know what was going to happen. And seeing on the other side of it now, I know that they're going to connect. And if you are in those days, wherever you are, just know that they are going to make sense one day. Now, that being said, I have a couple bones to pick. So everybody can sit back down except for Jeanette. Yeah, Jeanette, you stay standing. Everybody else can sit back down. Yeah, this is where it gets good. All right, Jeanette. So I listened to everybody talk, and I had my laptop closed the whole time, and I really was paying attention, and I took some notes. And Jeanette said, I want to be a badass too. I don't want to just do wedding invitations. I want to be a badass. Well, Jeanette, I want to introduce you to a couple of friends of mine. This is Twigs. This is the table where much of CodeKit was written. And CodeKit 2. That's Guy Meyer right there in the blue staring awkwardly at me. And those two guys in the back, the guy waving, his name is Aaron Hendricks. Aaron is a good friend of mine, one of the most inspirational people I know. The guy next to him is Nick. Nick is a freaking savant. Nick writes more code in his sleep than I write in a month. This guy is just, it's incredible being with him. He has been such an inspiration to me. Every time I come to Twigs, I say, here's what I did this week. And Nick is like, I shipped 3 apps. Okay, great. And I love that. I love that I don't get frustrated by it. I love it because Nick inspires me to work harder. He makes me want to close Twitter and actually do something and not just spend my life wasting it away. Aaron is the one that really made a difference to me. When CodeKit 2 launched, the server crashed for a few hours, and I was super stressed out. And then I came to Twigs that night. It launched on Tuesday. We meet every Tuesday night at Twigs. And Aaron and Nick and Guy, they took me out for a beer after, we hung out at Twigs here to celebrate. And I was really happy. This was launch day. It's a great feeling. And Aaron said something that kind of really choked me up. He made a toast once we got our beers, and he said, Bryan, congratulations, you are an inspiration to me. And it had never dawned on me in my entire life that I could be that for somebody, right? I had my inspiration. I had Jobs, the icons, Richard Branson, all these guys, the great entrepreneurs. I had these guys. They were my inspiration. It had never dawned on me that I could be that for somebody else, let alone one of my friends, somebody that I knew, It was a very weird feeling. And Jeanette, that's what I want to say to you. Welcome to Club Badass, Jeanette. You are already a badass. Somebody is getting one of the things that you created tattooed on them. Nobody is going to get the CodeKit logo tattooed on them. Russ, where are you? No, seriously, Russ, where did he go? He was my one hope for the CodeKit tattoo. Jeanette, you are already a badass. You create cool stuff, and you are an inspiration for others. And I think that it would be tragic if other people made the same mistake I did, and that is not realize the inspiration that you have within you for the people around you. The way that you can make the guy sitting next to you or the girl across the room look at your artwork and go, man, I got to open Photoshop. I have a great idea. That doesn't get expressed, and I think we should as a community. We should do more of that. We should say, you know what? That really mattered to me. Don't keep that bottled up. Tell people. Tell them. Send them an email, send them a tweet, call them, do whatever, but let them know that what they do really matters to you, that it made an impact on you, because that person will go on to do better things, and you will go on to do more things. And I would love to see that grow in our community. Next, I got to get within range. This got said, right? Anybody remember who said this? It's a photo app. We're not changing the world. Is Sam here? There you are, buddy. Sam got up here and he said this about Lightly. It's a photo app. We're not changing the world. Sam, that is 100% grade A bullshit. This is something that took me a long time to figure out. And this is something that really only dawned on me recently. Steve Jobs is a really, really inspirational fellow, but sometimes Steve Jobs feels more like this, right? You look at what he does, look at all the Apple laptops around the room, the iOS devices, you read the tweets. People found out about Jobs' death on devices that he helped create. And you go to yourself, man, I suck at life. I do nothing. Nothing that I do will ever matter on this scale. And that is a really depressing thought. And I had it for a long time, and I was convinced, right? I was convinced that nothing that I was ever going to do was going to matter. I was not changing the world. And Sam, the reason that it's bullshit is because keynotes don't change the world. The men behind keynotes don't change the world. Johnny Ive, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, presidents, they don't change the world. We do. The only people that change the world are the people that make shit happen. The pixel pushers, the code jockeys, the ones that take ideas from just an idea to something tangible, something in the world, something that was not there before. That's us. And we don't get the glory and we don't get the credit. Nobody puts us up on biographies. But Steve Jobs did not make the iPhone. A bunch of nameless designers and developers worked nights and weekends and most of their lives on that project. And Steve Jobs didn't build Macs. He didn't make the unified body. He didn't make all of this. He was a leader, and he absolutely deserves some credit. But do not let that detract from the real heroes of the story, which are the people that slaved away in front of computers, just like we do. And this idea, when it dawned on me, was something very important, because it justified kind of what I was doing with my life. CodeKit isn't going to topple nations, right? But neither was Twitter when Twitter was just an idea. Somebody said, hey, you remember those pagers from the 80s that used to be able to display little messages? I'm going to make a website that does that, right? If I pitched that idea to you, you'd be nonsensical. It's a terrible idea. Twitter went on to topple nations. And it wasn't because of Jack Dorsey. It was because a bunch of designers and developers spent long nights and weekends building the damn thing up from nothing, putting something where nothing used to be. And if you do that, whether it's Lightly or Art Snacks, whatever you're building, if you make something where before there was nothing, you change the world. Because the world doesn't change in leaps and bounds. It changes incrementally. It's like getting old. You can't see it happen overnight. It just happens. And it happens because people like us decide to make it happen. And we deserve that credit. And don't let anyone ever belittle you for it. Don't let anyone ever tell you that what you do doesn't matter. In the darkest hours, where you're up against a deadline and you're stuck in front of that crap, don't let anyone tell you it doesn't matter. Because the only way it does is if we keep doing it, collectively, all of us. Now then, that got a little bit preachy, so let's have some fun. I need a volunteer. I have one right here. I'm going to bequeath to you the power of the remote. You ready? All right, don't, seriously, this is some serious shit. All right, so this button right here, this arrow, that's what you're going to push, but only when I tell you. You ready? Okay. All right, so everybody up, everybody back up. We're gonna get back up here. We're going to close this thing out Steve Ballmer style. My homage to Steve Ballmer. Here we go. I swear to God, I'm not going to run around and shout developers, mainly because there's only like 3 of them in the room. If you would please, hit the button. Everybody up on the chairs. Let's get up on the chairs. New perspectives. Come on, everybody up. Can I get a round of clapping going? Hit the beat. All right, we got working this. All right, so after that, the energy is a little low now. Anybody got any questions? Yeah. I have the microphone, I guess. You know what? I will come to you. This is customer service.
Thank you. That was incredible. So much. I don't even have a whole list of things. I'll just pick one. So, it just feels pointless now after that big, I want to go make things. I don't care. So, App Store stuff, obviously, in the past when I've done non-App Store, people were like, oh, I want to pay with PayPal, or, my credit card. It's just, constant complaining about payment, or they lost their code, and just, endless support on payment. Does that, bother you? Have you thought about doing App Store as well as your thing and make it cost more? Or I don't know. I'm just curious on all that because it's been a huge thing.
That is the one thing that the App Store has is convenience for the customer. I like it. It's really great. You go into the App Store, you get a new Mac, you download all your apps. They're right there. No license codes. That is absolutely. That is the one thing that I have to sacrifice by not playing in the App Store. There are also people that don't trust Stripe, that don't trust me, that think I'm harvesting their credit card data. I tell them, hey, let's do PayPal. And, they send me an email. They just send me some money through PayPal, and I send them a license code, and I have that all automated, which is really nice. So that's kind of how I handle that. The ultimate thing for me, though, is that the folks, again, that are in my market understand when I reply to them, and I go, well, I don't play in the App Store. Here's why. It doesn't make my work look very good. I can't because of the sandboxing restrictions. CodeKit does all kinds of cool stuff there. And when I send them this kind of explanation, again, they're tech savvy and they're smart. So they say, well, okay, I get it. I understand. No worries. I will buy it outside of the App Store. And they are more than willing to forego that convenience to help out somebody that they is like them, a developer, a designer, somebody that makes stuff. So I would like to be in the App Store, but not until the App Store is a little bit better for the people that really make stuff. Nobody buys an iPhone because of the calculator app or messages. They buy iPhones because we make the apps that drive it. Same with Macs. You don't buy your Mac because of Safari. You buy it because of Photoshop and Sketch and all these cool apps. We make what drives Apple's sales, and I wish that they would acknowledge that a little bit more and do more to help us. We've been asking for years for free trials in the App Store. Let us have a way to do free trials of apps. Let us have a way to respond to reviews. The customer that says the app's broken, and you're reading it and you're like, oh, you're running little snitch. I totally understand why it's not working. But there's nothing. You can't get in touch with that person. How do I handle that? Steve Jobs would not sell stuff in the App Store. And until that changes, I won't either.
Any other questions? Oh, we got one over there.
More of a comment. I can just yell it out. When I bought CodeKit 1, and it actually made WordPress callable for me after I learned stats, so thank you for that. Nice. Number one reason I ended up giving you money instead of using one of the other free resources that is inferior was because your FAQ said, hey, I really love CodeKit. I'm on Windows. What should I do? And you said, get a Mac. And I'm not on Windows, but like I appreciate the personality you put in the site, and that was what ultimately got me to grab my credit card.
Well, thank you very much. It's a double-edged sword. Some people like it and other people don't. But people have been making fun of me my whole life. They'll go on making fun of me. So, goes with it. No, you should have been around for third grade, man. Third grade. Phew, third grade was rough. Yeah, terrible, terrible time. Catholic school, awful.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much. That's amazing.